Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Strong Women Series. I am Maxine, and I'm so excited to have Sandralis Rivera here with us. How are you?
I'm doing so good. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy to see your face. It's been so long since we've been able to connect. We met like 5 years ago at Hillsong, but we kind of both went separate ways. I live all the way in Maryland now, and I just haven't seen you in a long time. So I'm excited to have you on the call today. For those of you who don't know Sandra Lee, she is a mom, she's a wife, she's an educator, and she's a worship dancer. And she's going to be sharing with us a bit of her story today. Sandralis, remind people a little bit about how we know each other.
Okay, so we ended up serving on the same team. We were both hosting at Hillsong. And we really didn't get to connect because we were on two separate levels when it came to the church of where we actually served. You were on the higher level, upstairs, constantly helping the people upstairs, and I was always downstairs. But then one time at Eric's house, we were actually able to connect. And even though you weren't directly talking to me, I heard you talking about this journal that you were creating and this desire in your heart that you had for like women to share their story and how you were going to walk them through the process. And literally, as I'm talking to someone else and you're right next to me, I'm like, and I hear you and I jump right in because like the teacher inside of me was coming out. And I can tell that like through your writing process and how you were breaking down graphic organizers. And I just saw like the educator, but I never connected it to like my faith. And I was watching you do that right in front of me. And from that moment on, we connected and I was so intrigued by what you wanted to do with Rise. That it just, that's really what brought us together, was just really you expressing what your vision was for the future.
Yeah. So we connected there. We connected on one of the retreats, and we kind of just stayed in touch throughout after that. So again, really happy to have you here. So just let's jump right into your name. Tell me about it. Do you love it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? How do you feel about your name, and what does it mean?
Well, Sandralis, it started off with a strong hate relationship. Literally, I never said it. I never wrote it in school. The moment I even heard people try to pronounce it like Sandra, it's just Sandra. And I did that for 30 years of my life because everyone butchered my name. It was so bad that even on legal documents growing up, I always wrote Sandra. So like my mother's name is Sandra. And she had to explain to me as an adult how important it was for me to start writing Sandralis, because I mean, I had good credit because her mortgage was under my credit score. Like everything of hers was coming up under mine because we had the same name, we had the same address. And it really didn't take me till I was much, much older to really one day someone tell me, no, what's your name? Because it says there's something else. Like, I don't know, I guess they saw my badge or my ID, something at work, and I literally was like, it's Sandralis. And they were like, that's beautiful. I've never heard that before. You should start telling people your name. But I still despised it. And it took up until after I found the Lord for someone to ask me in church, what does your name mean? It has to have a powerful meaning because not everybody has it. And I'm like, my name means nothing. It was made up. It was Sandra with Elise because my mother just wanted me to be different from her, but it didn't have a name. She was like, I'm almost sure it does. Look them up as two separate things since you said your mother put them together. And this was now in my mid to late 30s. And when I looked that name up, I was in complete awe because it fit my personality so well. Sandra meant defender of mankind.
Wow.
Which everyone knows I could be a little feisty. I'm a little aggressive when it comes to my students, when it comes to what I do for a living, when it comes to activism and social injustice. It's what I do. Like, if you want someone to fight for you or to change a system or to even start something, I'm the person people look for.
Yeah.
And the lease meant oath to God, like God's promise. So I was so blown away how the enemy had me just not owning my name for so many years. And it had such powerful meaning. And my mother had no idea. you know, that's what it meant. And from that day moving forward, you know, now I tell people Sandralis, and they're like, can I just call you Sandy? Can I call you Sandra? And I'm like, no, because I know
whole name.
Yeah, I now I enforce it. Like, it's Sandralis. Like, I'll help them, and I won't take anything else less than that, because now, you know, I honor my name and what it means and represents in my life now.
I love that. That is so beautiful. I love that you found that out and that you're just owning it. And it's also like just accepting a piece of your identity as well.
Yes, and that's really a big key, is identity. Like, I struggled with that for so many years. But just to know that it fit my personality, like, everybody knows I'm a fighter. So the thought that it didn't even say fighter, it said defender, I'm like, yeah, that is what I've been doing.
Yeah. My whole life, people have been calling me a fighter, but I've been defending.
Exactly.
I relate to that. I relate to that feeling. Awesome. Well, hey, tell us a little bit about your journey with God. What has that looked like? Tell us a little bit about your testimony.
So my journey, I've always known the Lord since I was a young girl, you know, raised in the church, in a Catholic church, raised in Catholic school. But of course, I was introduced to God as a man of justice and of punishment. So he saw everything I did. And obviously, I started then rebelling when I got older. And I felt like everything he did to me was out of punishment. Everything that happened to me was a consequence of a sin that I had. So eventually, in my 20s, I fell away, and I just did not acknowledge. I didn't go to church. I was really, really lost. And I spent a whole decade from my 20s to my 30s out in the streets, partying, relationships, everything you can think of, because there was like this emptiness inside of me. And I would only go to the church and feel extremely guilty on Easter, because my birthday tends to fall around Easter. So you could only imagine what that week of, you know, Good Friday and actually Easter Sunday was like for me. Every year I felt this guilt and this shame, and it just increased every year, but it never caused a shift in my life. And I want to say, until I got older, I actually did a little exchange, which is why testimony and just telling people about God is so important. I offered to tell a girl that I would train with her and work out with her. And her response to me was like, all right, we can do it Sunday morning, but you got to go to church with me after that. So I'm like, all right, fine. Like, I'm trying to help you lose weight. Like, I know God, you know, like, but okay. And I went to a Christian church for the first time ever. And I walked into that church and I almost fell the moment I walked in through the door. It was that powerful. And from that moment forward, I knew I knew God and Jesus as two separate things now, right? Like, I was really being introduced as Jesus, like as my comforter, and God as my father. And my relationship with the Lord started to grow more. And I started to read my Bible word for word for the first time in my life. I started to write in it. I started to journal. I stopped reading self-help books and all these books to like become better. And next thing you know, I started reading more things about like the gifts of the Spirit and the Father's love and identity. Because I realized I was struggling. It was a battle of my identity my whole life. Who was I? You know, what was I trying to become? What did I want to do with my life? Because even being an educator, right now, this is my 18th year. I always felt like I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't living out my purpose. And then after I thought I knew who God was and had this deep relationship, and, you know, now I can actually quote scripture and I can tell other people about the Lord and invite other people to church. I realized that I knew nothing about the power of like his presence for me to cultivate that. And I knew nothing about the power of the Holy Spirit, knew nothing about it until my late 30s, up until maybe 3 years ago. I ended up walking into this place called Resting Place House of Prayer. And it is not a church. It is a place of worship that everyone gathers in the region, in the whole tri-state area. And that is the first time in my entire life that I just felt a shift inside of me, but that I carried. Like I can feel these shifts if I said certain things. If I started to think a certain way, I can literally feel like my body being jolted. And that's when I realized, okay, now this relationship of all the aspects of it is now complete. I literally kept hearing him say, there's more, because through my journey, right, being a Christian who was loving him, but out of like just fear and respect, and then running away and then getting to know him more, I felt like I have arrived. Like now I know, now we're in this relationship. Now I understand the magnitude of your power. I am here. And I just literally kept hearing, no, there's more. Like there's more to me. There's more to this relationship. There's more to what I can do for you. And there's more to who you are. Like you still don't know who you are. You're just discovering who I am. You have no clue who you are or what you mean to me. And then I went through this drastic change in my life where temporarily I lost my daughter to the world. She turned 18 and she decided, she was an adult and that she knew what she wanted out of her life and that she didn't need her mother anymore. And she walked out. And then that same time, I was recently married, not even 2 years, and my husband walked out. And literally the two most important people in my life walked out within 3 months of each other.
Wow.
Out of my home. And I found myself by myself in this house. And I thought I lost everything because, again, you said it in the beginning, identity. Who was I? I was a mother. I was a wife. I was an educator. And I felt I lost all of that. So suddenly I found myself saying, I'm nobody. I don't need to exist. I don't belong here. I'm not a wife, or I failed at that. I failed as a mother. And because of those things, now I was going to work and I felt like I was failing as a teacher. I couldn't even like do my job because I was so stressed, so hurt, so broken, that at that moment I felt like, God, but I'm just discovering the magnitude of who you are. And I feel like I am at the best that I've ever been. Why was everything taken from me? Literally, why was everything taken from me? And I felt God say, you've always been so busy playing a role and fixing other people. And you've been discovering who I am, but you don't realize how much I love you. Like you don't understand my love. You understand who I am and what I do, but you don't understand my love for you because you're always with other people. And you see yourself as a mother, as a wife, as a teacher, as a daughter of parents. You don't know what it is to be the daughter of a king. You don't know what it is to just sit there and receive my love. And as much as I want to say, Maxine, that I thought like I was being punished and I thought I was the worst person alive and I thought that everyone abandoned me, it took me some time to realize that when the Bible says, right, that God is jealous for you, like he's legit jealous for you. And he will remove anything, even if it's good to you. He will remove anything from your life that is in between of him getting to know who you are. No. And for you getting to know who he is. Like for him, he wanted me to discover how he sees me. And all the barriers had to be moved. All the layers of who I thought I was, these identities that I was walking around with that he did not give me, were stripped. And I had nothing but myself. For the first time in my life, I had to live alone. I had to be alone in this room. I couldn't depend on just the church to like lay hands on me and pray for me and lift me up, because then I had to go into my home by myself and depend on the Lord to lift myself up. Yeah. Lay hands on myself to be able to wake up. And that didn't work for me because I felt so worthless. Mm-hmm. And it was so difficult, and I kept seeing people around me happy, and I just felt like that's it, this is over for me. And I actually came to a day where I wrote the father. I literally wrote the father a letter, and I said, I'm tired. I give up. It's over. Forgive me. Um, and that's why I wear this shirt today. And I want to thank you for inviting me, because part of this has been me trying to share my testimony, and speaking and fighting against like the spirit of suicide and the spirit of depression, because I've always felt sad, you know, from here to there, and failures in life. But that moment, I literally, like, I always tell people I wasn't suicidal. Like, I legit committed suicide. I made a very poisonous cocktail. I wrote a letter. I was here by myself. I actually missed out on a day of school of ministry. I stayed here and I poisoned myself, and literally passed out. And God sat there on my bed, and I can literally see him just like hugging me. And I remember telling myself, because I felt like I was leaving, like, that's it, this is over. And then all that fear started coming in me, like, I'm going straight to hell. Everyone's told me I'm being condemned, like, that's it. Like, I made, this is awful. Like, I could, the worst thing I could have did was taken my life when he was starting to show me who I was. Like, I destroyed his plan. And God literally performed the miracle in my house, and, you know, emptied out my stomach completely before I even went into the hospital. Just performed like this magical surgery inside of me, pumped my stomach out. Everything that would have happened to me at the hospital, he naturally did here in my home. And then he brought people to my house in that same time to expose what had happened. Wow. So I still did end up in the hospital, even though I felt like I was okay and I didn't need to go, because he has saved me. And now I felt like, oh my God, he really loves me. Like, I've been taught my whole life that he punishes me. I've been taught my whole life that he sends suicidal people to hell. But I've lost my students at 10, at 15 to suicide. I've lost younger children to suicide. And all I kept thinking was, he's supposed to send me to hell. I'm supposed to be dead right now. I don't understand where this forgiveness came in. I don't understand why he saved me. I don't understand why I'm in this hospital. And when I tell you, girl, that in that hospital, you are not allowed to have anything for 24 hours. I was given my Bible within like 5 hours of being there, by the grace of God, because I begged for it. I was not medicated while I was there, even though everyone in my unit was, because I refused the medication. I knew I didn't need it. Like, I knew it was an instant saving from the Lord. Wow. But I was there, and I knew I had to make the best of it. And literally, God used me in that precise moment, not me going somewhere to get healing or being prayed for or anything. In that precise moment on that unit, I was used to pray for other women that were there. I was used to literally lay hands on them, because they saw me with my book, and no one on the floor had a book. And they would even say, is that the Bible? Are you really reading the Bible? They let you have your book? We're not allowed to have anything. Like, you can't even have your own underwear. You are allowed to have nothing but these scrubs for 24 hours. You can't have a hair tie. You can't have anything. And I was the only one in that unit walking around with my Bible. Wow. And God used me right then and there to start praying for people, to speak life into them, to share how he saved me, because a lot of people had to get IVs there, had to get their stomach pumped there, had to be fixed there. And that all happens to me here at home, in the comfort of my home, in the privacy of my home, just between me and the Lord. And then I was put out there to see what other people were struggling with, to see that other people had been there multiple times in that unit, to see that people were crying out for help and not getting it, because even the people that came to see them blamed them and were angry at them for what they were doing. And my heart just broke in a different way. I came out of there a completely different person. I grew so close to God, so close to him, that wherever I went, everyone would literally tell me, you look so different. Did you dye your hair? Did you lose weight? you did something. And I hadn't done nothing. I hadn't worked out in years. My hair was still the same. But everywhere I went, from work to church, everyone saw me differently. And I understood what it said. Like in the Bible, it says what's in your heart shows on your face. And I never knew that. And people used to always be like, girl, you okay? You look mad. Like normally I walk around looking mad. Like even at church, I think people used to be like, she's a little tough, you know, she's always looking rough. But there was this, my face had changed completely. And it was literally because now I walked in the manifestation and presence of the Lord. And like, I felt the Holy Spirit. When I need to pray for people, if I feel that little urge, it doesn't matter where I'm at, I will stop and pray for people. I've learned that these little things or visions that I see when I see people are not just anything. Like I know when I'm getting words of knowledge and the gift of prophecy, I can tell when someone walks by me and is struggling. And I literally have to stop dead in the middle of my busyness to say, the Lord loves you so much. He stopped me, a complete stranger, and highlighted you out of everybody in this mall. Like you got highlighted because he wants to save you, because he knows that you're struggling and crying at night. He knows that you're feeling suicidal and depressed, and like he loves you so much. And just to embrace someone and walk away and to know that all they needed to feel was that physical love at that moment, and to know that God actually talks to other people about them. Like talks about them, like the Lord talks about us to other people. It's just like, as much as we love our husbands, we're going to brag about them all day. Like the Lord brags about us to other people and says, look how beautiful she is. Look how much I love her. Look at who he is. He is a man of God. I have so many plans for him. And I've just been in awe of like what he's done. And I know that there's still so much more, you know, that the Lord has to teach me and to show me, not just about me, but about others. So as much as I want to say and feel like I've arrived now, you know, like he brought me back to life. Like that was from a grave, and like, this is it. I know that this is not it. Like, I know that he wants to shock me even more. He wants to use me even more. He wants to pour down more giftings, more blessings, more authority. So that journey has just been developing so intensely the last 10 years. It's been so intense, and it's been I don't even know how to describe it. It's just, he doesn't stop. He doesn't stop. He doesn't stop chasing us down. He doesn't stop wanting to show who he is. And if he needs to remove things in order for us to see it, he will. And I gotta say, like, my story is not all sad, because that was like a 2-year process of me being alone. And I stopped looking for people, and I stopped, you know, wanting, because I'm a fixer. If something's broken, girl, I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna put it back together. If you lost, I'm gonna pull out a map and I'm gonna help you find your way. So it took me leaving my daughter and my husband to find their own way and to do their own thing. And literally, like magic, which is what the world would call it, which I know it was God, my daughter showed up to my house and moved in herself like nothing. And within months of that, my husband pops up and wants to work on our marriage and work on restoration and reconciliation. And I'm literally like, wow, God, all these years I've been trying to fix things on my own. All these years I've been suffering, carrying the weight of trying to do your job. And all you wanted to teach me was how to be still, how to just focus on you. And I didn't have to do anything. Just focus on you, worship, praise, talk to you, and everything would fall back in its place. And when people would tell me, don't worry, it would be fine, I would be like, no, you don't understand. My situation is different. And it did. Everything fell back into place as if it was never even broken. As if it was never even broken. So my favorite phrase is but God. Like your life could be falling apart, but God.
Yeah.
This corona right now is taking place and I'm like, but God, like he has used even this season to bless me. I have never felt so blessed since the last time. Like in this season, I have been so blessed to spend time at home with my family, with my daughter and my husband. They just recently came back.
Yeah.
God knew I wanted to spend all the time in the world with them, and he let me work from home. He let us all work from home and go to school from home. And it was like, not only are they back, Sandralis, not only are they back in your life, but now look, I'm giving you guys like 24 hours, 7 days a week together. No fighting, just like joy, literally growing, learning each other again, walking through forgiveness, talking about things, healing together. And it's been beautiful. It's been beautiful.
Wow. Sandralis, thank you so much for sharing such a powerful story. And I feel like, we're not going to end here, but I feel like we could. I feel like you just like dropped the mic on us here, but
Yeah.
thank you for being just so transparent. I know that, there are people who struggle with depression and suicidal thoughts, and that story is going to really touch people, and they might even hear bits of themselves in this space. And I can relate to you having lost sight of identity and going down that same path. And so, a lot of the work that I do is about this, of making sure you understand your identity, because it's so important. And I think right now more than ever, in this culture that's so confused, in this culture that's everybody is running to a label or a preference or whatever the case as who they are, it's so dangerous, because that is where the enemy is attacking us. If he can get us to lose sight and put our place and our energy and our thoughts into a false identity, oh gosh, he has won half the battle right there. And so restoring the identity, restoring who God actually says you are, is such a huge piece, because when you have purpose, when you have vision for the future, you can walk in that. And I just all the time think, like, when I'm, I know when I went through what I went through, it was just a lack of purpose, a lack of vision. I didn't understand my life. I didn't get it. And I couldn't see. It was completely like just fog. There's nothing here. And so, I think the fact that God used you in such a powerful way, even at the hospital, that he would bring you there more alert, right? More alert, so that you could pray for people while you were there. I think that is absolutely incredible. And just, wow. Folks, I hope you guys are listening to this and just seeing that God can use you at any point, at any time. Yeah. Sorry, were we going to say something?
Yeah, actually, like when you mentioned that, like using me, I think part of my biggest goal right now is to even remove that stigma, because I'll be honest with you, there were people that, and that's why I've been very hesitant about sharing my story, because there are people in the church that'll be like, oh, but that's because you didn't know God. And I did know him at that moment. Like, remember, that was at the highest peak of our relationship, but I lost everything else. So it wasn't about not knowing God. It was about my identity. And at the end of the day, around that time when this happened, that year alone, we lost 6 major pastors in the US.
Yeah.
Predominantly high influenced, loving men of God that all committed suicide. Yeah. So I wanted to remove the shame that people tell people, well, you just don't know the Lord. And it's just like, no, it's not about that. The enemy is everywhere, and we need to remove the shame of depression. We need to remove the shame that people carry in the church with mental health, because they'll just be like, just pray. That's what my mother said. You can pray that off. And I'm like, no, mom, you really cannot pray this off. Like, I have this hoodie that says Jesus and therapy, because I still needed someone to talk to. Like, part of my healing process was not just kneeling before the Lord. Prayer without works is dead. I had to put in other things into effect. Yeah. And now I want to help the church community specifically, because I feel like that's where the enemy's thriving. The enemy's thriving in a church where everybody's like, but I know the Lord. I'm saved. I'm good. I'm not. There are no demons here. I don't have issues. We need to go out there where those people don't know God.
Yeah.
And that's why it's increasing in us, and we're suffering silently in the church. No one wants to speak about it because they're afraid of being told, well, honey, you just don't know God.
Yeah.
Open your book, get to know the Lord. And that's not the case, you know. So I want to help people talk about it more. I want people to understand that they need to pray for their pastors more, for their pastors' families, for their children, because the heaviness that they carry from the church is too heavy for them to carry alone.
Yeah.
And that's why the Lord reminded us that we need to carry each other's burdens. And the thing is, we're all carrying them silently by ourselves in shame, and
Yeah.
we don't want to talk about it. So I knew that I needed to, like, even though I'm so happy of what God done to me and I'm so excited about what he's done, there was still a little bit of fear.
Wow.
Because now I am in a position where I do pray, where I do intercede, where I do worship now and praise. And I never wanted people to look at me like, but she committed suicide. Like, what? Like, she actually killed herself. I was still scared of people judging me. I still carried the shame that the enemy attached to my back.
Yeah.
You know, and now it's like I need to walk, because the Lord didn't allow me to go through that for nothing.
Right.
So I gained authority in that area, and I can't just carry it for me and my household. You know, so my goal is to move forward and to expose that darkness of people thinking that they're by themselves, because they're not, and that they need to speak up and they need to seek help. And you cannot just pray it off, and you need community. And we're meant to do this together. You know, no one was put to do this alone. God is all about, he literally said, right, love your neighbor. Like, that is one of his most important things.
Yeah.
You know, love them as you love yourself. And that's what God commands us to do, is just love. So I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity, because I thought I was going to cry throughout that whole thing and break. But by the grace of God, I was able to, you know, get it through. And this is just the beginning. Like, you provided me an opportunity. And when you asked, I told you, everything inside of me came up with a million excuses to tell you no. I was like, no, I'm busy. You know, we're in school. I just, like, wait till later. And I knew that by telling you, let's wait till later, that eventually it was just going to be, no, I was going to push it off. Yeah. But now I'm learning, right, to identify those voices. Those were not my thoughts. That was not my voice giving you the excuse to say no, because I had just prayed to God, give me the boldness to start sharing what you've done for me. Like, give me that boldness. And girl, within like 2 days, you contact me. Within 2 days. And instantly I'm like, no, I'm busy. No, I can't. I'm sorry. No. And I had to realize, girl, that wasn't God. No. That wasn't God. Like, God provided you an opportunity. The enemy's trying to shut you down. So as scared as I was, as busy as I was like, nope, let's do it. Yeah. Let's do it, because she is an answered prayer from the Lord. You need to stop holding your tongue. You need to speak up for others who are terrified to share what they're struggling with right now. So I want to thank you for your obedience, because you heard from the Lord. You could have asked anyone else at any other time, but you literally asked me when I was sitting with God, talking about receiving the boldness to start speaking about what I've been through. Wow. So I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think this conversation is just so needed. And I'm excited for you, because I know that, you know, as you continue to grow and build, like, I know that big things are going to be coming from this. And I mentioned this to you before, but you have such a voice, Sandralis. Like, I love just listening to you talk. And so I want to encourage you again to get out there, whatever God is putting on your heart, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a book, whether it is, you know, videos. I think you would be absolutely great at all of that. Come on, encourage her some in the comments too, so that she can see what I'm talking about. But I just think that God is just not done with you yet. Just like you said, I'm in agreement with that. He is not done with you yet. You have so many people to touch. And I'm honored that you chose this platform to kind of share your testimony in this way for the first time. So thank you for walking in that boldness. And it worked, in case you were wondering, because all I felt was authority and boldness when we're talking. So thank you so much. we are going to close here, but I wanted to just really quickly, is there anything that you would like to shout out, like a book you're reading, a podcast you're listening to, a show you're watching, anything that could be helpful or a resource for somebody else?
Actually, yes. Right now, I am reading a book called Boundaries. And this is a powerful book because not only is it written by psychologists, but they're men of God. And it's a way of protecting ourselves. So I really would highly recommend anyone who is struggling and feeling exhausted and tired, or feel like they're serving and doing so much, but they still don't feel joy and peace. It's because they're living without boundaries and they're overexerting themselves onto others. So Boundaries is my go-to. And my other book is called Foundations of Freedom. And it's actually all about prayers on how to forgive others, on how to forgive yourself, on how to release bitterness, how to just powerfully cover yourself with the word of God, because, you know, this is a constant battle every day. Like even right now, after I get over this, I know there's going to be other thoughts that are going to come across my mind that are not mine. And I'm going to be attacked by accusing spirits. And I'm going to start maybe to judge myself, or I'm going to start to regret things, or fear is going to set in. And I have to cover myself in prayer to target those specific things. So I would really recommend Foundations of Freedom for anyone that feels a burden on themselves.
Love it. Thank you so much. Hey, Sandralis, if people want to get in contact with you, what's the easiest way to do that?
On Instagram. Right now, currently, I'm just on Instagram for now. And it's at @triple_S.
Awesome. Great. And so we're going to pop that link down in case you want to send her a message of encouragement.
That would be beautiful.
To you. So Sandralis, thank you so much for sharing such a powerful testimony. I love you so much. I'm so excited that we reconnected. And I look forward to seeing all the things you're going to be working on soon. So
yes, I mean, you spoke it into existence, so I receive it.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Instagram at strongwomen_of_God. Until next time, take care.